In this video, we're going to start introducing one of the most important parts of the representative oil painting technique, the oil colors blending. And in particular, we're going to talk about a specific type of blending that from now on we're going to call fading. Here, we're going to see what they are by the theoretical point of view, and we're going to start to see how to recognize them. While in the next two videos, we're going to see a couple of methods to make them. Blending and fading are two terms that we're going to use a lot in the future, and since somehow they could be confused, it's better if we make clear immediately what specific meaning we're going to give to each one of them. While we are painting, we're going to blend every time we want to turn a color into another, and we're going to do it right on the support. We're going to fade every time we want to join colors with a not precise borderline, placing between them a transition area that smoothly turns one color into another. So we're going to blend to change colors, and we're going to fade to connect colors. But at the end, as you will see, many times we will do both things at the same time. So, for example, if we have a blue stain on our support and we're going to blend it with some white, we're going to change one part of that area in a lighter blue. Of course, to do this, we don't need to blend the two colors on the canvas. We can prepare the light blue on our palette and paint both areas separately as we did in the last video. It's a different story if instead of a very sharp borderline between the two colors, we're going to fade them. In this case, the only way to do this is if we blend them right on the canvas, like we have done when we have smoothed the border before. Now, before we start fading our colors on the canvas, that, as we said, we're going to do in the next two videos, let's see first a bit of theory on how it works. Once again, we're going to start by the uniform painting. So, let's say, for example, this white rectangle has a canvas that we want to paint, and let's say that we want to make a transition from the white on the left side up to the middle dark blue on the right. If we only have two colors and we have to do this by using uniform painting, we can only put the white on the left and the blue on the right. But if on our palette, for example by mixing the white with the blue, we prepare a middle step blue, we can put it in the middle between the white and the blue on the canvas. And doing this, we get a third uniform area. And if we prepare another middle step by mixing the white with the light blue we just made, we can put it on the canvas between the white and the middle blue, and in this way we got a fourth area. We can get a fifth area by mixing the light blue with the dark blue. And if we keep doing this, at the end we're gonna get a blue scale. Before we go on, we should point out that while we are increasing the middle steps number, their thickness is decreasing. And every time we add a new step, the transition between the white and the blue looks smoother. If we keep adding them, we will arrive in a situation where we won't be able to see steps anymore, but lines of different colors. From now on, we're going to call these fading lines. And something that we have to notice is that they are all perpendicular to the fading direction. And this is a general rule. Later we're going to see different types of fading, but this rule is valid for all of them. And it's very important that we keep it in mind because it's the base to fade colors while we are painting. There are other two very important parameters that we should keep in mind when we fade colors, and they are the transition length and the color transition curve. In this case, the transition goes all over the canvas, so its length is the canvas wideness. And since it's a linear transition, its color curves are straight lines. To start, we're going to focus on the transition curve. What does it represent? it tells us the concentration of that specific color on each fading line. So in this case, the white fading curve is this, while the blue is this other. In this first point of the canvas, the color of the first fading line is made with 100% of white and 0% of blue. But if we move to the right on different fading lines, the concentration of blue increase and the concentration of white decrease. Once we get to the middle, the concentration of both colors is 50%. We're going to mark this point with a line because we're going to use it later. If we keep moving right, when we get on the last fading line, its color is made 100% of blue and 0% of white, and the transition is complete. If we take the two extreme fading lines, where we have 100% of white and the other where we have 100% of blue, and we move them in the center direction, we can see decreasing the transition length. Let's move now the 50% line to the right. This is going to change completely the concentration of each fading line. We can see that although the fading length is still the same, the white transition will become longer while the blue change more rapidly. And consequently, the straight line has become a curve. If we move this line to the left, we're going to get exactly the opposite. This is a very important concept because in the real world, most of the transitions are not linear. What we have seen so far, it's a particular type of fading, where all the fading lines are straight, and this because the original border between the white and the blue was straight. At the end, the fading is a way to join two stains of different colors. So the fading lines are going to follow somehow the border path that originally joined them. For example, if we want to fade this circle into the external blue, all the fading lines are going to be circles. And if we want to fade these irregular shapes, the fading lines are going somehow to follow these paths. All the examples that we have seen until now belong to a specific type that we will call uniform fading, where all the fading lines are parallel between them. But in the real world, this doesn't happen very often, and most of the times the transition between the two colors isn't uniform. And this at the end means that the fading lengths change according with the position. So, for example, a more realistic circular fading could be this, or eventually this. And maybe for the other shapes that we have seen, it may look like this, or like this in this other case. Our theoretical presentation of the fading is complete, and maybe at this point you feel a little bit disoriented by all this information. But don't worry, at the end fading colors isn't so difficult. As always, when we don't know what to look for, we can't find it. Now that we know theoretically what we should search, let's see in this still life subject if we can identify at least some of the fading that we have just seen. So, for example, the first thing that immediately gets to my attention is the candle holder shadow, where we can actually see most of the things that we have seen so far. This part here on the right, where the transition between the shadow and the light is pretty sharp, and it has a very precise spot, it looks very similar to what we did in the last video. While if we look at the left side, there is no border but a transition area like the one we have seen theoretically now. This is definitely what we have called a not uniform fading. In this area the fading length is pretty short, while if we move to this other area it becomes longer, and then at the end it gets back short in here. This actually was pretty easy to find, but let's give a good look to the tablecloth, where we also have a fading. Let's see, for example, these three areas here. They're pretty bright, but if we look at these other areas, they are quite dark. And since there are no borders line between them, this means that there is a transition with a quite long fading length. Let's go back now to the candle holder shadow. If we watch closely inside, we can notice that the color isn't uniform. And as artists, we have a choice to make. We can ignore this fact and paint the whole area as a single color, or we can decide to be more realistic, trying to make this shadow as we actually see it. If we decide to be realistic, then we have a problem, because these colors are very similar, and it doesn't really make sense for us to prepare all of them in our palette. It's actually much easier if we do this job right on the canvas, and this means that we have to do some blending. Of course, this is an extreme case, but let's give a look to the pier. Even if we want to ignore these small dots, the external surface is made by many areas of very similar colors, all fading and mixing with each other, and also in this case the best option is to blend them right on the canvas. We have concluded our introduction on blending and fading, so my suggestion for now is take a small break and keep exercising watching the world around you, trying to find by yourself all the things that we have seen so far. In the next video we will start seeing how to blend and fade colors using the multilayer method. If you enjoyed this video, we will really appreciate if you could click on like and subscribe to our channel. It will also help us very much if you could leave a comment. Thank you for watching this video and see you in the next one.